Hi everyone, welcome to Number Corner. Today we are going to be working on the calendar collector area. For calendar collector, each month we are going to be collecting something. In September, we're going to be collecting data. So the other day I asked you to think about the word data. I asked you to think about what data is, how do people collect data, why do people collect data, and I got a lot of really great answers. Here's a few that I'm going to share with you. Data is information. That is correct. Data is information. Data is like inside of a computer. It saves all your things, kind of like a database. That would make sense. Aiden said he had to get data for a science experiment once. Vern says data gives you information about stuff. Absolutely. Some things that you can use. People collect data so they can learn new facts and study interesting facts. Data is information. Data is information. I think data is a way to collect information. So it seems like a lot of us are thinking that data has to do with information. And you are absolutely correct. Today what we're going to do is we are going to conduct a survey, and a survey is one way to collect data. Groups conduct surveys about all sorts of things, usually to help make decisions of one kind or another. For example, during election years like this year, groups often conduct surveys to figure out which candidate people like best. Candidate is just a person running. Companies that make and sell things like food, toys, cars frequently conduct surveys to help decide how to make those things in a way that will make more people want to buy them. My survey question for you on Tuesday was about work preferences. I asked you, when working in class on a challenging math problem or an interesting science experiment, do you most prefer to do the work alone, with a partner, in a small group, or with the whole class? These were our results. 5 people said that they prefer to work alone. 18 said that they prefer to work with a partner. 9 said they prefer a small group, and 3 said that they prefer to work as a whole class. Now what we're going to do is we are going to show this data on a graph. So this on the right side is, with the blue background, is what it would look like in our classroom, but this is what I made for our virtual classroom. So now what we need to do is we need to take this data and we are going to graph it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this right out of the way, insert text box, and I'm going to push Control V and it pastes it right over for me. Now we're going to look on the scale side, and you'll notice on the scale side that you see numbers instead of words. This will show us how many people like to work alone, how many like to work with a partner, small group, and class. One thing to note about this scale label is it's not going up by ones, it's skip counting by twos. Sometimes graphs do this, so you need to make sure that you always check your scale label. Now we're going to get to the fun part of graphing. So 5 people said that they like to work alone. When you look at your graph over here, I don't see the number 5 anywhere. I see a 4 and I see a 6. So the top line up here would be 6, the top line right here would be 4. I want you to stop and think for a minute. Where would you put the 5? How could you show 5? Pause the video and think about that, and then push play when you're ready to go. Okay, so 5 is in between 6 and 4. So that means we have 2 whole ones, 1, 2, 3, 4. And what I'm going to do for this is I'm going to make my graph go halfway through 6 to represent 5. So 2, 4, and then it's not quite 6, so it's halfway through, so it represents 5. Next, let's move on to working with the partner. 18 people said they like working with the partner. Looking at our graph, I see the number 18, so I'm going to go ahead and you would be coloring this in on your paper, but I'm just trying to make it easier on the computer than coloring it in. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. Now let's move on to small group. 9 people like small groups, and so we have the same problem that we had with the number 5. 9 isn't on our chart. I want you to pause your video and really think and see if you can figure out where the 9 would go. Okay, let's see if you got it. If you get this, then you're really understanding graphs. So it's 2, 4, 6, 8. I can't fill this whole one up because that would equal 10. I'm only going to fill half of it up to equal 9. If you got that, great. You're really, really thinking hard about this stuff. Finally, 3 people like to work as a whole class on these kind of problems. We have the same problem that we had with 5 and 9. I don't see 3 on this graph. You should be starting to get the hang of what we're going to do next. I want you to stop the video and think, where do you think the 3 would go? How would I show 3? Push play when you're ready. All right, so here we go. 2, and I can't do this whole one because that would equal 4, so I'm only going to do half of it to show 3. So great, now we have graphed our data. But our work isn't done yet. We have to fill in all of these blanks so people know what we're talking about. So for the title of our graph, I'm thinking back to the question I asked you, and I was asking you how you like to learn in certain situations. So I'm going to label this ways we like to work, needs to be capitalized, in class. When you're working on a title, the bigger words need to be capitalized. Little words like to and in and a don't need to be capitalized. So ways we like to work in class. This is what this graph shows us. For categories, these were our choices, and our choices were the different ways to work. So alone was one way, partner was one way, small group one way, and as a class was one way. Finally, our scale label represents how many people like to work that way. So it's going to represent the number of people that like to work that way. Now our graph is finished. We've taken these numbers and made a visual representation of what they mean. Looking at this graph, I can easily see which way was the most popular way to work. Which one had the most votes? What do you think? Partner had a lot more votes at 18. So which one had the fewest number of votes? Right, it's the class with 3. I could also ask questions like, did more people like to work in a small group or alone? Right, small group would be the answer. More people voted to work in a small group. Great. This is going to lead us into our assignment for today. We are going to be thinking about what would you like to know about our class. Some ideas include you could ask, what is your favorite sport? What's your favorite kind of animal? What color do you like best? You can use one of these ideas, or you can come up with your own. The second part that you're going to be working on is coming up with your 4 categories. So we're only going to have 4 categories. So for sports, you're going to choose 4 sports. So maybe hockey, football, soccer, and baseball. It doesn't have to be those 4. It could be cheerleading, soccer, softball, and tennis. Whatever 4 you want to choose. You could do the same thing. So for what is your favorite kind of animal? Just choose 4. For what is your favorite kind of animal? Maybe you want to do goat, pig, cow, or chicken. Things like that. Obviously, it doesn't have to be those 4. It could be any 4 that you would like to do. I'm going to be using some of your ideas as we continue to collect data throughout the month of September. Okay, that wraps up Number Corner for today. You will be working on a Google form based on what you learned in this video. Have a great one.